Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from Inkybutterfly.com. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another card making video. We're going to feature winterly trees today. Do something a little different. I've used it a couple of times before, but I haven't used this background die in the set. So this is winterly Treetops stamp set with this lovely fun bow that you can make into a wreath. One of these adorable birds and some really nice sentiments that you can use for the Christmas season or for any other time of the year. So really nice set with the dies. Like I say, I haven't used that big die, so we're going to use that today. But sentiment wise, I did want to make this Christmassy, so I've pulled in the season's greetings from the decorative trees. Of course you can use whatever sentiment you like. So raid your stash, see what you've got. Okay, and then this is the layout we've ended up with today. Okay, going to make it quite similar, but I'm going to make the birds look a little bit more like British robins. The style of the artwork is I think to make them look like cardinals, but we don't get those in the UK. So these ones I've coloured a bit more like sort of springtime birds that we get here. Okay, but yeah, like I say, I'm going to aim to make mine look a little bit more like robins this time. Okay, so we're going to stick with the crumb cake card base, which I've already got ready and waiting, and then the background pieces are old olive and shaded spruce. I've actually done it twice and layered it together. Okay, so the die itself, now I have to say I did not realise I made the card, not realising that the die only actually cuts out the centerpiece from a sheet. It doesn't cut out the outer edge. So when you're using the die, you want to cut down your panel to the size that you want and then cut into it. Okay, so that's what I've done. I've made a panel, or cut a panel, that's actually 1/4 inch than normal, so it's 3 3/4 by 5.5, and then cut out the center part to get this really cute frame with all the sort of pine sort of style branches coming in off of it. So here it is set up on another piece of shaded spruce. So when I put it through the machine as well, let me just get a plate. I put it on the plate so that a corner leads into the rollers, and you'll get it'll be easier to roll it through basically, and you'll get a better cut. If you try and do it straight on, that roller is going to hit that metal and it's going to be very hard to roll it. So cut it down and send it through a corner first, and you'll find it a lot easier to cut this out. Okay, so I've taped it into place, and then I'm just going to turn it over and just gently free up that edge from that center portion. Okay, just do it gently and it'll come out. There we go. There's just a few little bits to poke out there. Okay, we'll clean the die out later. Okay, just a couple of little pieces around the edge that you might need to knock out. Okay, so we've got 2 of those. So those are, oops, there's another piece up there. So just every time I look at this, I find another piece where sometimes the cardstock gets a little trapped. Okay, so there they both are, and to layer them up, I actually put one the other way up so that you get different branches showing. Okay, so on the card sample, I had the shaded spruce on top. So this time around, just to give it a different look, we'll put the old olive over the top, and we're going to do that right now so that we can got time to allow that to dry. Okay, so I'm just going to, oops, a daisy, use this silicone mat to protect the work surface, and I'm just going to run some glue around the edges here Okay, so your wet glue is going to be helpful here because it will mean that you can layer these things over the top of each other and make sure it's all lined up. I'm going to pop that over the top, make sure none of that old olive is showing too much, and then we'll know it's lined up. Press it down a little bit, flip it over, make sure you're happy with it. That looks good. Okay, and then I'm going to use my large F acrylic block to hold that down and in place, and we can let that dry while we do some other things. Okay, so we've already stamped out the birds. I've used Memento ink because we're going to colour with Stampin' Blends. Okay, so I did a little bit ahead of time just so that you weren't watching a whole heap of things, but coloured in the branches and the berries. Okay, use slightly different colours. This is Poppy Parade and Cherry Cobbler, so it got a brighter look to it. This one was Cherry Cobbler and Real Red, and the colours sort of blended quite closely, but I wanted a bit more of a contrast, so I switched that up for Poppy Parade, so you get a bit more depth to those. Okay, and then our little birds then. So again, I did, as you can see, I've been messing about with the colours to see what was going to work best. And when you look at pictures of robins, whilst we call them robin redbreasts, it's actually quite an orangey colour on them in real life. Okay, and it's from their head down, sort of to their chests, rather than down in the bottom of their bodies, sort of thing. So and the rest of them is a little bit on the grey side actually, so on their tummies. So I'm actually going to bring in the I'd like crumb cake. I think I want grey granite actually. Yeah, grey granite. I picked up the wrong one. And I'm going to use the brush tip, and I'm going to bring that in from the bottom there, and then if you put a bit more at the bottom, it gets darker, the colour layers up, and I'm going to do the same on this guy. Flick that in, and again do smaller flicks at the bottom, and it just layers that up, so we've got some colour going on. And if you just let that dry and then go back over it, that layering will come through. So we've still got colour on the little tummies there. Okay, and then for the breasts themselves, now you're gonna have to play with your markers, right? So my pumpkin pie markers, one of them is getting on a little bit on the dry side, so I've ended up using my light Cajun Craze and my dark pumpkin pie to create the look that I want to do. Okay, I'm going to flick in from their heads sort of down. Okay, now let me just make sure that I've got to get this right. Okay, the pumpkin pie is going to be the lighter colour, and then we'll intensify it with a bit of, yeah, Cajun Craze. Okay, yeah, that's it. It's always a bit nerve-wracking when you do this because you want to make sure it goes right. Okay, so I say it's their faces down, they've got a little bit of a brown cap on them, so I'm going to take it sort of from here and flick in some colour around there, but I'm not going to go onto the wings. Okay, so that looks okay. And this guy, I think we'll go this way. Because their faces are definitely still orange, and it kind of goes down, always makes like a V on their tummies. And then I'm gonna just flick in a little bit of this Cajun Craze, which will just make that bit around their face just a little bit darker. And just give it some depth. Okay, and that will blend out. Okay. And the little white bits, there are little white bits on them, so I'm not worried about that. And then I chose the bronze marker to fill in the bits where they will be brown. They're quite a dull brown colour, if I dare say that about Robin, really. And then we'll flick it into their wing, going up into there, and letting that play through the tail. And then when that dries, we'll put some more in at the base, just to I want to sort of put that into those orange colours, and it will blend in a little bit. Okay, and we'll go over the bottom part of these wings. Okay, and you can do that a couple of times if you want. Sometimes you will find that the other end of your marker's darker, which will help you build up some depth. To just play with them a little bit. It depends on how much you've used your markers as to what kind of effect you'll get from them. Okay, there we go. I think that looks okay, actually. Quite happy with how that's turned out. So we can get that die cut. So just lining that up. What I find is if I line up the berries sort of down here and up here where my index fingers are, that's usually about right. Okay, and because it's a big die, you probably want a couple of pieces of tape, which I've still got here. Right, so let me just, they're still on that other die, so I'll just break off another couple of those, take off a lot, take off the tack so you don't pill your cardstock at the same time. Get it lined up, and if you try and stick it to your waist, if you like, yeah. So for this die, it's the outside. On the other, this one, I stuck it in the middle, because I knew that was going to be the waist from that die as well. Okay, so we can roll that through our die cut machine in a sec. But what I would like to do is just make the best use of that die cut machine, and also at the same time we're just going to run through one of these stylish shapes from some crumbs of cake cardstock. So it doesn't need to be taped in, because we just want to do it onto some plain cardstock. So we can do that at the same time, and then that saves us one round of running that through. And that's the beauty of using the larger machine. These dies would fit through the mini on their own if that's all you've got. The big one won't, I don't think. You know, the background die, but the other ones should. Okay, so I've got this one ready to stamp on. Okay, and this is you know, use up some scraps and things like that. So this was just an offcut of basic white cardstock, which was the perfect size for this to stamp this image on, and make sure it was die cut out. So there we go, that's all come out beautifully. Okay, and we can sort that out in a minute. Okay, so he's ready to go on. He looks cute. He really looks cute. Okay, that's ready to stamp on. I've also got a little bit of gold, which is 3/4 of an inch wide. So that's just going to be a little wider than this, just only a little bit, to enhance that. And then I've got another strip, which I think ended up 3.5 inches long. Let's use inches, Bertie. Yeah, 3.5. Okay. And because I've used the stylish shapes for this, and we've got a little bit of stitching on there, I've used the other banner that's in there to kind of bring that through. So we're just going to use a tiny piece of tape just to secure that. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll it through from this end, but we're not going to go all the way. We're going to stop before it gets there and roll it back out again. Okay, so we'll end up with just a partial die cut. Okay, so I'm going to roll it through until I just see that that's going to start to disappear, but I'm not going to send it all the way through. And you end up with something that looks like this. Okay, so it's not all the way through. Okay, we can even cut that off so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, because I want this die, did you see that this one would only cut it up to there? I want the full length of this. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is shuffle this along to that end, and I'm going to pop it back into place. And you'll have to just trust me when I say, you will feel it. You'll feel those little notches to click back into place. Okay, and again we're just going to roll it through the die cut machine to here and not recut this end, otherwise we'll chop off this extra bit that we've just worked hard to make sure that we end up with. Okay, so I call this double die cutting because that's what you're doing. You're die cutting it twice just to make that shape a little longer than it was intended to be in the design of the die. Okay, so it would only be this big, but I've made it a little bit, quarter of an inch or so longer by using that technique. Okay, and that means that will fill up the front of the card a little bit more, and you'll have more of it showing. I'm just rubbing the back of that because those little tiny die cut sort of stitched holes, sometimes they don't quite go all the way through, but if you rub your nail across the back they'll all come out. So like I say, if it hadn't have been a little bit longer, those two, you know, you don't get as much showing through, and I want to introduce a little bit of this gold as well. So for the gold, I happen to have a punch that does this. You can snip it with your scissors, but just because I've got it, I'm going to use a punch. This isn't carried anymore, this is retired, but if you've got it, you can use it. I can't even remember what it was called. It might have been triple banner or something, but I find it quite useful, so I kept hold of it. Okay, so now we've got 3 banners that we can layer together to create our little sentiment focal point. Okay, and I'm just going to use some seal to layer those together, trying to make them look even at both ends, or thereabouts anyway. Okay, before we stick this one on, we just want to put our greeting on. This is our season's greetings, and I've chosen early espresso just because we're stamping onto crumb cake. I did stamp the bird images in Memento Black. Could have used the early espresso as well. Any water-based ink is fine for alcohol blend colouring. But I don't know, I just felt like the brown would be nicer on there, so I went with the brown just to keep it you know, all nice and matched up with the rest of the layout, really. So again, we can pop that on, just having a look, making sure that's sort of central, top, bottom, left, right. That looks about right. Okay, then that's going to be popped up onto some dimensionals. And again, with your dimensionals, don't forget to use up all the little bits, all those little offcuts and stuff that you get. Okay, but I do want that well supported. Okay, so I'm going to pop a few of those on there, so that's ready to go. There our bird is. Okay, and our element here for the front is all nice and dry now. It doesn't take long for that glue to dry, so we can pop this onto our card base. Now I'd probably say that there's enough room on the bottom there for some seal. Okay, but you use wet glue or whatever you want if you prefer. Okay, and you can use your silicone mat behind that as well, just to make sure it doesn't go on your work surface. Okay, and I've just got just a bit of glue just hanging there. If you did get that, you can just use like a pokey tool or something just to break that and make sure it doesn't interfere with your card. There we go, that's no bother. Okay, so this is sized to fit on here, she says. Just remember that, oh, got my fingers all stuck to this now. We cut this a little bit smaller and narrower, so sometimes you might need to just make sure you're eyeballing that and making sure it's all nice and straight. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm not going to worry about all those extra branches or anything. If they lift up and stuff, I think that adds quite a nice little bit of movement and dimension. Any little adhesive bits, just rub over with your finger, it'll come away, no problem. Now I just want to make sure that everything's going to fit to where I want it, so you don't end up sticking things down that then end up in the wrong place. So I'm actually going to use some of the got a few mini dimensionals here, so I'm just going to use those so they're less likely to kind of get in the way. And we'll put one down there. Don't need loads, just enough to get it to secure it. I quite like the berries and the bird to sort of come over the top of this as well, so I think we're going about there. Having things overlapping is one of the easiest ways to make things look like they belong, so that's a little tip for you there. So that's going to sit about there, and you probably can't see past my fingers, but I'm just trying to make sure that those tails do look like they're even and that it looks straight, and then these little guys can just sit on top. If you're nervous about your positioning and getting it right the first time, you could put some dabs of glue on there and it will just give you that little bit of wriggle room. Okay, but other than that, if you just hold it at the edges, don't want that apostrophe to disappear, because you know grammar is important. And I think that looks just grand, just there. Okay, that tail pings up a little bit, but I think that's cute. Okay, so there we have it. There's our season's greetings card there, with some birds that are coloured to look like robins. They've turned out really great, they did. I didn't practice those really. So yeah, this one we've got sort of more springtime birds, and then we've got the shaded spruce over the top, where we've got the old olive on the top of this one, so you get a completely different look. I really like how this one's turned out though. Okay, and so you know you can play around with the colour, okay, and and the mixes and matches. You could even cut these in different colours to make it look like they're frosty and stuff. So do have a play around with that. Okay, so that's my card for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and it's given you some more ideas on how to use this set. It's a really pretty set, really pretty. Okay, thanks for joining me today. Do stay safe, take care out there, and I shall see you again soon. Bye bye.